Hello, welcome to another video by LS6 Engines, Tuning and Marine. In this video I'm showing a Mercruiser 4.3 liter V6 engine, and this is at the stage of build it's considered a short block. Crankshaft is in, all the pistons and rods are in. In this particular case the balance shaft is in because a lot of engines don't have balance shafts, and the timing set on the front, the camshaft gear, camshaft, and timing chain, and all that is installed. I'll go back. I've set this up temporarily to paint this block. I've temporarily covered up the timing chain so I can paint it. And once I take it back off, I'll do a quick video on how that timing chain was installed. It's pretty easy. So at this time, I'm about to bolt the heads on and tape it up so I can paint it. And just wanted to show it before it was sealed up on top with the cylinder heads. So you can see that number 1, number 3, 5, and so on. By the way, I numbered the pistons not because they necessarily go in that cylinder, but because when I put the rods on, the rods have to go on in a certain direction. So you must put all the odd numbered rods on in one way and the even numbered rods on a different way. And just to make sure I didn't get all my rods mixed up, I had the pistons numbered as I put the rods on. So that's why they're numbered. I like to show the video like this, make the cylinders, the nice shiny aluminum pistons, and the bores look nice. This is the last time it looked like this. So fixed to bolt it up. By the way, the balance shaft has some surface rust on it. It's not gonna hurt anything. I cleaned it off before I put it in there, and I even wiped it down. But I guess the rust that was on it came back. This engine had a lot of water in it when I tore it down, and I guess some water droplets were on that balance shaft too long and rusted it up. Anyway, about to seal it up and put the cylinder heads on it and paint this thing. All right, continue with the cylinder head installation. I'm about to install cylinder heads on this 4.3 liter V6 Marine engine. And to do that, I've got Felpro Marine head gasket 17010. I've got 2 of them. And I was torn between using Marine gaskets and the standard gaskets because basically that water flowing through both of them. But the Marines supposedly have a stainless steel, I guess you call it core material on these gaskets, what they say, although I'm not sure. I've stuck a magnet to these and it sticks to them, so the jury's still out on that. But so in this build, I'm not gonna take the chance. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Marine gaskets. I got a good deal on them at Rock Auto. So like I say, you have to check price on Rock Auto daily to get good deals like this. And so about to put these Marine gaskets on, and the head gaskets go right here around the cylinders, and you have to make, if there's a side on the gasket marked top, you put the top facing up. Otherwise, you just try to make sure you don't cover up any of these holes that should have a passageway up to the head. So at this time, I'm going to open up the head gaskets and put them on the cylinders, put them on the what's called the deck of the block, and make sure everything looks good before I put the cylinder head on. All right, I've now installed the cylinder head gasket on the block, and there's no top marking on this gasket, just has the part number, the Permatech logo, and the Felpro logo, and then a tag called R5. I'm not sure what that means, but anyway. These gaskets have a sort of a rubbery compound on them. You do not need to use any kind of sealant or dressing. You just put them on just like they came out of the package. So at this time, I'm going to put the cylinder head on. And by the way, the cylinder head is held on by these 2 dowel pins here and here. So you have to make sure it sits down on top of those dowel pins. And once the cylinder head is on the dowel pins, I'll install the cylinder head bolts and tighten them to a specification, which I'll do in the next video. The part number is ES74034. And you need 2 boxes of those. You have to put 2 boxes of bolts. It's 1 set of bolts per cylinder head, per side of the engine. So at this time, we'll set the cylinder head on here and then put the bolts in hand tight. And then I'll show you the process for torquing them down. Okay, the cylinder head bolts come in 3 sizes. The part number, like I said before, is ES74034. And the bolts come in 3 sizes. You have long, medium, and short length. So the long ones go everywhere in the top except for the outer ends. The outer ends get 2 medium length bolts, and then the bolts on the outside of the cylinder head these are all underneath the valve cover. These are not. These are outside the valve cover on the bottom of the cylinder head. These 6 are the short ones, and they go there. So I'm about to install these bolts and run them down. So you tighten the bolts all on the first pass. You tighten them all to 22 foot-pounds, and then after that, you tighten these to use the angle torque method or angle twist method, whatever you call it. You tighten these to 75 degrees, these to 65 degrees, and these to 55 degrees. So because the bolt's shorter, it doesn't get twisted as much. So I'm about to put these bolts in the holes, and you don't need to use any kind of sealant. They already come with sealant on the threads, but I do put a little bit of assembly lube underneath the head of the bolt to make it easier to turn. So we'll do that now. So I'm going to go ahead and install these bolts, and then I'll show you how I torque them down. Okay, I'm now tightening down the cylinder heads, and I've torqued some of the bolts already, but I'm going to stop and show the procedure. So the sequence is you tighten them all to 22 foot-pounds first, and the sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you tighten in that order. And right now I'm about to tighten number 10, and I'm going to tighten it to 55 degrees. So what I do is I rotate my angle torque meter to 0, and then to make sure the stop is against the block, and then reset it here. So now with my stop against the block and it's set on 0, I twist it. Now this one gets, the short ones get 55, those get 65, these get 75. So for 55, there's 50, halfway between that tick mark and that tick mark is 55. So I'm going to rotate this to the needle points to right there. I'm going to have to put the camera down to do this, but when I'm done, I'll show you where it points. As I was saying, once I'm done, I'll show you where I'm pointing. So I've let go of it, so there's a little bit of slack in it, but the needle was pointing right about there when I had tension on the handle. So that's 55 degrees. You have to put a lot of effort in this, so you need to have a good, like I've got my foot on the engine stand, and I'm holding this against the block with this hand, and I'm prepared to be able to lean back to pull on the torque. I'm not using this torque wrench for the torque. I'm just using it to turn the bolt. But you have to be able to prepared and have room behind you to really lean back and pull on this torque wrench, because it's taking somewhere around 70 to 80 foot-pounds to turn it this many degrees. So you need to have room around you. You need to have be prepared to be able to really pull on these pretty hard. So that's number, I believe it was number 10. So now I'm about to do 11, 12, and 13. So 11 will get 55 degrees, this will get 65 degrees, and 13 will get 65 degrees. And then this cylinder head will be bolted on. All right, before I put the cylinder head on the other side of the engine, I went ahead and cleaned the valve cover. I'll put all the valve train components in. I got all the rocker arms and the rocker arm studs and the rocker arm nuts. All came back with the heads separate. So I went ahead and installed these, everything except the push rods. I didn't tighten them down, just put them in there loosely. And so now I'm about to, well, I've cleaned the valve cover, fastened it down with new rubber gaskets that came in the gasket kit. And I put the new, if you can look in there, you see the blue Felpro gasket cover, valve cover gasket. And so I'm about to tape this up in preparation for painting the metal. I don't want to paint the plastic cover. It's already black. There's no need to paint that. So about to tape this up and then put the cylinder head on the other side and tape it all up, prep it for painting. All right, I've now got the second cylinder head on and it's torqued down. It was identical to the other side, just duplicated. I've now cleaned up the other valve cover, put the new gasket. This gasket came with the Felpro set. The valve cover's cleaned up, the gaskets installed, and then I've got 3 new rubber grommets for the bolts. And I'm about to set this valve cover on the cylinder head and see if it's on here, get a bigger picture. Goes somewhere right in there, but anyway. So I get the bolts clean them up, fasten this down, tape it up just like I did the other one. I've got that one taped up, ready for painting. I missed a spot right there. Gonna tape that over. But and once I get this other tape, I'm gonna tape up this entire valley so no paint gets in there, and then I'll paint the entire outside of the engine. When it comes to holes or places like this, I just paint over them and scrape the paint off where the gasket goes. It's just easier to do that than try to tape it up. I'm gonna have to tape that hole up there, and then this plastic gasket or plastic cover, I may get a new one, I'm not sure yet. It actually turns out okay, but I've got a new one on order, so I might just go ahead and use that. I think I will. As soon as you're supposed to reuse them, I'll keep that one as a spare for painting. So it's almost ready to paint, and next video we see will be it all taped up and ready for painting. All right, now that everything's all the cylinder heads installed and the valve covers are on and everything's taped up, I painted this Vortex V6 block, marine block with primer. So it's been painted with Rust-Oleum dark primer, and the next I'll put another coat of gloss black paint on it. So coming along. All right, continuing with the 4.3 Mercruiser V6 rebuild. I've now painted the engine with 1 coat of primer and 2 coats of gloss black Rust-Oleum. And this is the 3rd day, so I gave it 1 day between each coat to dry. And I put this 3rd coat on about 2 hours ago, and I brought it in the shop to finish letting it dry. So I'm just showing the front of it now, and I'll pan around. And you can see the gloss black color. I taped over the water port holes so I wouldn't get, I may have to scrape some of the paint off for the water pump to seat, but I'll tape over it to keep the paint out of it and make it easier to put the water pump on. This cover is the old cover, and I put it on as a temporary cover, keep paint off the gears and stuff. And they recommend that you replace, it says replace assembly upon removal. I personally don't think you need to. The reason they say that is because this comes with a gasket, a rubber gasket that's already permanently or already mounted on the plastic cover. And these bolts are shoulder bolts. So when you tighten them, they hit the shoulder and they won't tighten anymore, so it can only clamp so hard on this cover. So if your rubber seal gets brittle or dried out, it may not seal. But to me, if the rubber seal is still pliable and flexible, and when you put it on, you can see that it's making a good seal. You probably could reuse it. The only drawback to that is that the front cover, the front oil seal on the harmonic balancer does not come in the gasket set. I just checked the failed pro gasket set. It only comes with a new cover. So if you want to replace your front main seal, you're going to have to replace the cover. That's something I wasn't aware of. I was hoping the seal, what goes in here, would come with the gasket set, but it didn't. So I did buy a new cover for this engine, and I'll put it on as soon as this paint dries. So I'm going to pan around the engine and show the rest of it. All right, in this shot, you can see that I've turned the engine on its side. So I'm showing how the entire side of the block was painted. I put spark plug holes in here to keep paint out of the threads and out of the cylinders. I stuffed paper towels into the exhaust ports, and I'll be pulling those out shortly. I do that to keep paint out of the exhaust ports. As far as this surface here, I'll scrape it. I'll scrape the paint off when I get ready to put the gaskets on, and I'll just chase the threads with a tap to get the paint out of the threads if I have to. May not have to. This is a temporary plug I put in here just for painting. Actually, there's a brass fitting goes in here with a plastic drain plug, so that was just temporary to keep paint out of that fitting. So this would be the I guess the starboard side of this engine. See, I got these boat terms straight in my head. But anyway, this shows the what I consider the passenger side of an engine in the United States anyway. So that's that side. Now I'll flip it over and show the other side. All right, continuing with the painted 4.3 V6. This is the what I consider the driver's side of the engine. And painted all flat black, 2 coats. And you can see the same thing again. I pulled the plugs out of here and moved them to the other side when I painted, so that's why they're not in this side. One thing you see, I painted the freeze plugs or core plugs black. They were brass. If you look at previous videos on this engine, you'll see they were brass. I just paint them so it just looks better if it's all painted to me. So one thing I didn't do, I didn't mention, is I didn't paint the valve covers. They're plastic. They're kind of a flat black plastic. And I personally think they look better not painted because painted plastic just looks kind of cheap to me. Looks like somebody's trying to hide something. So that's why I don't paint the valve covers. If they have a natural look to them that looks okay, I don't paint them. All right, I thought I'd give one final shot of the engine with the tape removed. And the cylinder heads, the valve covers are a little dull. So I'm gonna ask the owner if he wants me to paint them after all, and I'll just pull them off and paint them separate from the motor. But this is the engine with all the tape pulled off except from the bottom. And so you can see it looks a little better with the tape off of it. All this, of course, will be covered up with intake manifold. And when I put the tape on, I try to put the tape, or try to leave exposed any areas of metal where I think that will be exposed from gaskets or whatever if they peek out from under the intake manifold. But if there's any bare metal spots that I missed, I'll just come back and hit it with a brush and some paint. So this is a 4.3 liter V6, and it's ready for the new front cover and all the lifters and the push rods to be installed before putting the intake manifold on it. I've also got to clean the oil pump and install that and put the gasket on. And before I do that, I have to put the rear main seal cover on too, back in there. That's a little bit hard to get to. Anyway, it's coming along, and hopefully the next video will be much more complete than this.